Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Well, guys, I'm back home from being on the road again. There's all this last week, and it is nice to be back home and be able to get back out here in the shop. This has been a rare treat for me the last month or two during some real busy times at work. Good news is it's about to slow down. I've got a little bit more travel the next couple of weeks, and then it should be pretty well on simmer for a while anyway. So that's going to allow me to get back out here in the shop and get back to work and hopefully make some more machining videos for you guys that I know everybody likes to see. But in the meantime, we've got some dates and announcements I want to put out, let you guys know about a couple of events coming up. Also, we've got some viewer mail that's come in, as well as some new purchases that I've made for the shop. And all in all, I think we got some stuff that some of you guys are going to find pretty interesting. So hang with me and let's get through this. So first off, some events coming up and some dates that I want to make people aware of. I get asked all the time when after I go do something, say, well, man, I wish you'd let us know you were going to be here and doing that or what have you that might have wanted to come along. And coming up on April 7th, we've got a really cool event that's actually held here in Tifton, Georgia at the Georgia Museum of Agriculture. Every year they have the Folklife Festival, and the Folklife Festival is probably the biggest event the museum does each and every year. It's all hands on deck on that day. I get asked all the time, when is the best time to come visit the Georgia Museum of Agriculture? And it is by far on Folklife Festival each year. We will have the steam train running. We're going to be firing the turpentine steel, wood-fired turpentine steel. They only do that one time a year, and that's during this, this festival. You'll actually be able to see the whole process of how they used to make turpentine in naval stores, rosin, etc. It's a really interesting process. We'll also have some steam stuff going, so we're planning on right now running the steam-powered sawmill for sure. We're trying to get up enough volunteers and people that know what they're doing that we can also be operating the steam-powered cotton gin on that day as well. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed we'll have both of those attractions going. I will be operating probably a steam engine and boiler somewhere, either at the sawmill or cotton gin. They haven't told me exactly which one I'm going to be at yet. Waiting to see who we've got that can come in and help. Probably at the sawmill, but I'm planning on being there doing that. It's going to be a fun day. There's lots of other things going on during Folklife Festival. There, like I said, all the different places through the museum basically has a 1890s to 1910 era village, and they have activities going on all over the place, from the stuff there in the actual village and the town section to the farmhouses, etc. Lots of really interesting and neat things going on. So if you're interested in coming and really getting a good look at the museum and seeing some really neat things all going on at the same time, I highly recommend Folklife Festival. Again, the date on that is April 7th, that's 2018. It's usually that first weekend in April is when they have that. Unless that falls on Easter or something, they may have to move it around sometimes. But usually that first weekend in April. So I hope to see some guys come out for a Folklife Festival this year. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I look forward to it every year. So come on out if you can. Next thing, we're going to need to do one more work day in my shop back here to get ceiling put in, and I'm wanting to get that scheduled as quick as I can before it gets too hot. And really the first weekend that I have available that I can really devote to it is going to be April 14th, which is actually the Saturday following the Folklife Festival. So we are going to try to do another work weekend on Saturday, April 14th. Hopefully we can get another little crew to come out here and just finish that last little section of ceiling back there in the shop. I don't think it's going to take all day to do it. It should go by pretty quickly. It's going to probably take 5 or 6 hours, but still I don't think it's going to take a full day to finish that up. So if anybody's interested in coming and helping out on Saturday, April 14th, please shoot me an email. Here's my email address right down below my name. Pops up at the beginning of every video. If you ever need to get a hold of me, that's probably the best way to do it. So email address down here, let me know that you're coming so that I can put you on the list and be expecting you, and also give you some further details as far as logistics and so go as far as coming in. So, typically I try to ask folks, that are more local to come in. Last time, and we've had this happen a couple of times, we've had some people drive some pretty big distances to come from those work weekends. If that's what you want to do, that's perfectly fine. But, really, I'd kind of hoping that we can just get some local folks to come in here. It's a day to come in and sweat and do grunt work with me. I hate for people to have to drive 8-10 hours to get here to do that. But hey, that's what you want to do, we'll be glad to do that as well. So anyway, those are some events we got coming up. I wanted to let you guys know about that. Hopefully you can put those on your calendar. And I really hope to see some folks on April 7th at the Folklife Festival. If you come by, swing around there and say hello to me in the Sawmill or the Cotton Gin or wherever I'm at. And hopefully, again, we'll see some folks on April 14th to come help with the work weekend. Let's talk about some new items for the shop. First up here, this is something I'm pretty excited about. I've been keeping my eye out for one of these for quite some time now, trying to get a good deal on one. What this is this is a granite square or granite angle block, however you want to call it. It's made out of granite, basically, as you can see, and it's basically got a precision 90-degree angle on this face compared to the bottom. This is a two-face one here, so it's basically a square. It's 3 inches thick. This one here, what is it? So it's 9 inches across the base, and it's 18 inches high. So it's a good size square. I've actually was needing something like this to use over on my the Monarch lathes for setting up the cross slide. I had a smaller one, but I really needed a longer face in there. And anyway, this thing popped up on eBay a couple of weeks ago, and I was really excited to get it. So it's a Starrett. Let me turn around and show you the label. So you can look on the label there. Again, it's a Starrett True Stone 2FAA, so that means two faces, again, the two square faces, and it's graded at a AA, which is the highest grade that they really have. Extremely precision. And I was also excited that the calibration sticker on it is actually still in calibration. So this thing was checked recently. I don't think it's that old, quite honestly. And I was really excited, like again, to see that it had a current calibration sticker on it. So again, I've been on the lookout for one of these for quite some time, and when this one popped up, I got real excited because it really looked good in the pictures. Everything looked great on it. I was really wanting to get one of these wider ones that's 3 inches thick across the face. A lot of the import ones that are out there are only 1.5 inches thick, but I really wanted a 3-inch thickness. It just gives you a little bit more stability in there, and also the size of it. I had mostly been seeing the import stuff coming up, you know, which you can pick up fairly inexpensive, and they're not bad. They're really not all that terrible, but getting a good quality Starrett like this, typically the rock's a little bit harder, it's going to last a little bit longer, and quite honestly, the calibration is probably a little bit better on it leaving the factory than some of the import stuff that's out there. So anyway, it was put up. It had a buy it now price on there, and it also had a make an offer on it. I submitted a little bit lower offer. I ended up getting this. It cost me $450, which is probably about a third of what one of these would cost new, roughly speaking. So I was pretty happy when they accepted my offer and we came to terms. They put it in the mail, shipped it to me, and that's when I got a little bit upset. Unfortunately, the sellers did not do a great job packing this thing up. They wrapped it up in a couple of wraps of bubble wrap, threw it into a cardboard box with some packing peanuts in it, and put it on a UPS truck headed from wherever it came from to Tifton, Georgia. When I got it and unwrapped it, there's a corner back here on the back where it got chipped in shipping. Let me zoom in and show you. So when I unwrapped the bubble wrap, you could tell where this corner had hit something hard in transit because it was not very tightly packed inside those packing peanuts. And the inside the bubble wrap, all that rock that was once on this nice, beautiful square was still wrapped up in the bubble wrap. No doubt it happened in shipping. And let's just say I was not a happy camper. The good news is that even though it looks bad, this is not the working end of this thing. This face is really not that critical. I didn't really lose much face on the bottom. It's not going to affect its use, but still, every time I look at this thing, it's just going to make me mad because this thing was pristine. It was beautiful. It was just like it had left the factory when it was sold to me and when they shipped it, but damaged in transit. I'm just so disappointed. So I guess I'm going to get on my high horse a little bit. Guys, anytime you're shipping a precision instrument such as this or anything else, take the time to pack it up properly. to put it in a packaging where it's not going to get damaged. You know, if this had been me shipping this, I probably would have built a wooden crate for it and packed it up inside of that and shipped it on, because I know that if I was receiving it on the other end, I would want it to be right. That's not what they did. Anyway, I contacted the seller. Hopefully, we worked things out, but I'm going to keep it. We're going to use it. But still, it really just makes me mad that someone did not do their end. I'm not going to blame it on UPS. It was clearly the shipper's fault. And anyway, disappointing, but still a great piece. I know someone's going to ask, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of show you what I looked at on this. Did this damage hurt the face on the bottom here, or hurt the squareness? I don't really have a good way to check the squareness right now, unless I had something like a Square Master or something. But I can check the flatness of this bottom fairly easily. So I've got it up on my surface plate. This surface plate it's been calibrated, it's flat, it's still in certification. And you can just do a quick hinge test and see how flat something is. And when I do a hinge test, we're just going to move it back and forth. We're looking for where is the rotation at when I come from this end. If it's flat, it's going to rotate about 30% in, and I can look up here at the top, and yeah, it's rotating about right here on this side. On this side here, same thing. I come in here, go back and forth. The back end of this thing is flipping around, and it's hinging where it should be. So that tells me that this is flat. And I really doubt that, even though we did some damage on this, and I really doubt that it hurt the squareness on this front edge. This is the working end. This is the end that matters. This back is just really for support. So I'm confident that it's in good shape, but still just disappointed. So next item here is actually several items that came from Dennis Stevens, and Dennis is a volunteer at the Minnesota Streetcar Museum up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And they've got a neat little place up there. I've never been able to get up and visit. I was actually going to try to get up there this past fall. I had a business trip going to Minneapolis, and I was actually going to fly in a little bit early over the weekend and go by and visit these guys and a couple other folks. Unfortunately, that was when the hurricane came through down here, and I was not able to actually go up there, so I had to cancel that trip. One of these days I want to get up there. But basically what Dennis sent along was some publications for me to scan and put up on the website. A lot of this stuff is from Simon Steel. It has to do with saw blades and things like that, bandsaw blades, etc., hacksaws. This is all relevant material. There's also some other material. He had scanned some of it and actually sent me a little thumb drive here that's got some stuff that's already scanned. These were more in book form, where he didn't want to take them apart and put them on a flatbed scanner. So he sent these to me where I can use in my book scanner to get scanned. So we'll get the items on the thumb drive uploaded, and then we will get these other items scanned and put up on the website here at some point in the near future. So Dennis, thanks for sending that along, and looking forward to hopefully getting up to the Minnesota Streetcar Museum one of these days. So here's another neat little thing. Actually, I was contacted recently by a person that had these, was offering them up to sale for me, and I just couldn't pass on them. So these are actually some cutters that are made to go on a metal planer, could be used on a metal shaper also. I had the question recently, someone told me I didn't know what I was talking about when I said I had a metal planer, it was a shaper. No, mine is a planer. Planer, the bed moves under the cutter. Shaper, the cutter moves over the bed. So they are a little bit different, but basically this is a single point tool that you would put on either one. And these are some pretty big heavy duty ones. These were quite honestly more made for a metal planer, for more some heavy duty type cuts. And specifically, these were probably made more for doing cast iron. This one could probably be used on steel. This one here is definitely for cast iron. But this is basically a roughing profile on there. It would actually give a pretty smooth surface with that large radius, but this would go in and just rough the material off. This flat one here, this is a really neat one. This is for cast iron. This would be for that finishing couple of passes. And this flat bottom here would give a really super flat surface to cast iron. You see a lot on old machine tables where it almost has a striped look in it. and that was finished with on a metal planer or a shaper with a cutter, something like this. So these cutters were made by, let's see if I can see there it is, the OK Tool Company out of Sheldon, Connecticut, and they both take a type of an insert. You see that one there, and you see that one there. Now, while there's lots of meat left on both of these inserts, one thing I'd be really interested in is if anybody knows or anybody has any inserts like this. I did a little bit of work looking online. There was a post on Practical Machinists that said there's a company, I think it's Muskegon Tool Company or something like that they said has some of these inserts. I have not been able to get a hold of them yet. It's been on the weekends when I've been home and they're just not open. I was going to give them a call. But if anybody happens to have in a toolbox or something like that some inserts that look like would go on this and maybe don't have something for them to fit, let me know, because I would really be interested in getting a few more inserts to go along with these. My plan for these is once I get my metal planer up and going, that I can use these on my metal planer. I was really kind of anxious to try them out. I actually contacted Adam Booth to see what the maximum width of a cutter would fit in his big 36-inch metal shaper, and unfortunately this is too wide. This won't fit into his machine. I would have really liked to have made a trip down there and put these in there just to see what they would do. But unfortunately, unless I were to mill off the shanks, we couldn't use it on his machine. And I'm really not wanting to do that because they will fit my metal planer just like they are. But hopefully one of these days I'll get my metal planer going. I'm getting kind of antsy to start on that project. So I need to get my lathe projects finished up first, but I'm really kind of wanting to get in there and start on that metal planer and get it going. Just I think it's going to be a fun machine to work with. So anyway, I thought I'd share those. So this was pretty cool. A couple of weeks ago, I was on the road traveling for work. I got an email from one of my viewers who lives down in the Fort Pierce, Florida area, and he had sent me a Craigslist ad. Said, hey, there's a guy down here that's got this thing listed on Craigslist. He says, I'm not a machinist, I'm more of a woodworker, but I watch your channel, and is this something you could use? Let me open this up and show you what's inside. That is a full set of Starrett micrometers, 0 to 1 inch to 11 to 12 inch, so basically 0 to 12 inches. The guy had 2 of these listed on Craigslist, both of them in the case, and he wasn't really asking all that much for them. I emailed Randy back and I said, yeah, that's a really good deal. I said, in fact, if you're willing to pick one of those up for me, I would like to get one of those sets. Well, Randy went and actually bought both sets, and as it turned out, he was going to be making a trip up through the Panhandle of Florida a couple of weeks later, last week, and he brought these up. Actually, he ended up contacting Adam Booth, and Adam Booth got the other set, and I got this set. I paid $175 for this, which is exactly what it was being advertised for on Craigslist, which is just a smoking deal any day of the week. I was really excited to get it. So I have actually gone through this set. When I got them, they were all dipped with the little protective stuff on the end. They were by no means, I mean, these are used. These are obviously they look like they've been used pretty well. They're in good shape, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you can see they've been used over the years. But I went through, I've got standards. I checked the calibration on each one of them. Had to adjust a few of them just a little bit. But this whole set is ready to go. I say I did. The 11 to 12 inch, I don't have a standard for that one. I'm going to have to come up with one. I had one for every other size. I thought I had one for an 11 to 12 or an 11 inch standard, but I'm going to have to round up one of those. But everything else checks out great. And I'm just tickled pink. I've pretty much had micrometers in all these sizes that I have kind of put together a set. And this set here, they're not all exactly the same. They're all the same model number, but they're from different vintages. So these are all Starrett, 436s. And some of these have the larger thimbles on them, which are newer than the ones that have the smaller thimbles. I don't know exactly when Starrett went from this size to this size. Some of these, a few of these will measure in 10 thousandths. Most of them are just measuring to 1,000th of an inch. Let's see, this one goes to 10 thousandths. This one goes to 10 thousandths. This one, and this one, and this one. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the set that measure to 10,000ths. So anyway, that was nice to pick those up. I wish they all measured to 10,000ths, but hey, I can live with that. Most of these are carbide face, so they have carbide on here. There's a few of them that don't, but most of them have the carbide faces on them. And there's this one here, has probably seen this in better days. It's got a little chip on the carbide on both sides. I noticed when I was calibrating them, but it's a pretty small chip. I don't think it's really going to affect anything. But anyway, nice little set. For $175, hey, I couldn't turn that down. So Randy, thank you so much for thinking of me on this nice set of Starrett micrometers. I'm really glad to have these in the shop. They're going to be a great asset to my tooling. And anyway, just thank you for thinking of me and giving me a call and passing on a great deal. Randy came by the shop and visited with me a little bit last, I guess it was Sunday afternoon as he was passing through the area, and dropped these off in person. So I got to meet up with him as well. So thanks a lot, Randy. So up next here is a kind of interesting item that was sent in by Curtis Johnson, who lives up in the Lincoln, Nebraska area. And Curtis had contacted me, said he had this old tool and wanted to know if I was interested in it. And he really wasn't quite sure, nor am I quite sure exactly what this was used for. It's obviously a set of Trammell points, in that you would use this to measure the distance between center to center on something. It's got the little fine adjusting here. I don't see a name anywhere on these other than a owner's name, or it said B Momo Company. I don't know who that is. Has I don't know what that's, 27-271. So I really don't know exactly what this is. There's not a maker's mark on it anywhere. This may be shop made. It may be kind of cobbled together from something else. I'm really not sure. But Trammell points in general, we're used to measure the distance or to check, make sure that distances between 2 points were the same. So not necessarily measuring them, but if you wanted to compare points to points. Normally it comes down, you have an actual point on this that would go into a small center punch hole or something like that. I suspect that these here with these balls, and these balls actually screw off, but I suspect with these balls that this was probably going into a larger hole than just a tiny point, so that they were basically able to just go in there and check from one to the other and make sure they were the same. Again, don't know exactly the exact purpose or function that these were used for, but they are interesting. He didn't really want them. I said, yeah, I'd love to have them just to add to the collection, if nothing else. I don't know that I would ever need these, but then again, you never know. I actually use Trammell points from time to time. We use them when we're setting the timing on the steam locomotive and doing some things like that. So they do actually come in handy even for some things that I'm doing now. And if I ever have a larger hole that I want to check and make sure they're the same between 2 different pieces, I can easily use this to do that for. So anyway, thanks a lot for sending that along, Curtis, and we'll give it a nice home. So another little box of goodies here. This comes from Terry Hume, and Terry was actually passing through Tifton, I think on his way to Florida or back one or the other last weekend, and got in touch with me, asked if he could swing by. He had a couple of things he wanted to bring, and we were able to work it out where he could swing by. I had his sister with him, but they came by and dropped off a few little things. So we got some horizontal milling cutters in here, some slab cutters that should be really nice. These are kind of interesting. They're really sharp, but they kind of have a serration in them, a rough cut to them, and it looks to me like they all line up where you kind of get that serration across there. So I'm not sure if that was a roughing cutter or whether they were actually going for that serrated finish on the final. There are 2 of these in here, and I think what's really interesting is if you look on here, you can tell that these were once really wide, and they've been sharpened and sharpened and sharpened to gotten down to a pretty narrow space. They're still usable as they are, but you can see they've been sharpened many, many times. Also have a little tapered reamer in here he threw in. And anyway, some nice little stuff. We'll put these horizontal milling cutters up over there with the rest of my horizontal milling cutters. Like I've said many times, you never know what you're going to need with these horizontal milling cutters. So when I can pick them up, relatively inexpensive or what have you, a lot of people don't want them anymore. They just want to get them gone. I'll give them a home, and we'll save them and have them, when the job comes up that we need them. So anyway, Nice little assortment of tools here. Thanks a lot, Terry. So another little box of goodies here. This comes from Gary and Daniel Foster, and they were actually passing again through Tifton on their way down to Florida, and was able to arrange to stop by, and they had a couple of little things. They both are working in the trade and up in Spartanburg, South Carolina area, and they had just a few little items they wanted to bring along to me. So first off here, it says Mitutoyo on the covers, and they told me, and I agree, these are not Mitutoyos in here, but they're kind of interesting. This is a set of dial calipers, but this is really more of a woodworking set of dial calipers. And sorry all the metric folks out there, because I'm about to make your heads explode, because it has fractions in here. I love it. So there's 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. Basically 1 revolution per cycle here. Not for super precision measurements down to the 1,000ths of an inch, but more to fractional dimensions. Again, something that would be very useful in the woodworking shop. And I'm guilty, I'm a machinist, I do woodworking, I use my machinist tools in the woodworking shop. And this right here would probably be a better option for a lot of what I'm doing in there. So it does appear to be pretty high quality, although it doesn't have a name anywhere on there that I could see. The around the outside here, the dial is in tenths, or excuse me, hundredths of an inch. It doesn't go down to the thousandths, so 0.01 inches or 1/64 of an inch is kind of the resolution on that. Even down here, it's got the fractions on the scale, or the hundredths, either one. But anyway, I think that's going to be a pretty handy little tool to use over there in the woodworking shop. Also in the box here, I've got a really nice Kennametal boring bar. Looks like it takes a CNMT cutter, which is one I use a lot of, so should have some of those. But really nice. This is a left-hand version of that, which I don't really have. I don't many left-handed boring bars, but this is really nice because it is a really beefy, stiff boring bar for doing larger diameter stuff. So we can definitely use this on the lathes or what have you. Anxious to do that. Had this is a Morse taper adapter. That's a number 5 down to a number 3, I believe that is. And I mean, it's brand spanking new, still in the wrapper. Got a little bit of surface rust on it, but that'll clean up. Super nice. You can definitely use that over on the Carlton. That'll definitely be nice to have. Have a big 1-inch end mill here. He threw in, he said he didn't have anything he could use it on. Let's see, we'll look at this first. So here's a collet. This is a Brown & Sharpe collet. You can see there, number 11, 3/8 inch round spring collet. I don't know exactly what that fits. If it doesn't fit anything that I have, and I told him, I said, well, it's not something I can use, but if anybody out there has something that'll work in, let me know. We'll work something out, get it to somebody that can use it. And had a couple of carbide inserts in here. I don't know that I got anything that those fit, but hey, I collect them and put them up. You never know when I might get something that they'll fit. And then these right here are pretty cool. Let me show you these. These that he actually made, and what these are for is to put has a little hole in the bottom and a little set screw. But you put a countersink in here for just hand countersinking. Let me grab a couple and I'll show you. So again, you put a countersink in here. Now I can take this and just becomes a little hand-powered countersink. You can go over to a hole and just twist it around a few times by hand. Or if you're on the lathe, you can just kind of hold it up in there by hand and countersink a hole. He made 2 different ones here that have some different shank sizes in them. This is actually a really neat little idea and would be a really simple project for someone who's got a metal lathe and just wants to get out and practice using their lathe. I mean, it's just basically a piece of steel. You drill the hole in the end for the size shank you want, go in there in the milling machine, cross thread it, put you a set screw in there, and of course he did the knurling on it as well on the lathe. So really nice little project. They turned out great, and these are going to be really handy. I'm actually kind of excited to have those, so that's going to be cool. So there you go. Appreciate it very much, Gary and Daniel. Y'all were on your way down to the Gator Nationals drag racing, I believe is what they told me. So I hope y'all have a great trip and a safe trip back home as well. And thanks for the nice items. Some more nice items, more additions to the shop. Appreciate everybody who sent stuff in, as well as guys who gave me some great deals and passed along some great deals to me as well. Always appreciated. And with that, this can pretty much be a wrap on this one. Just real quickly mention again, April 7th, Georgia Folklife Festival at Georgia Museum of Agriculture in Tifton, Georgia. Hope some folks can come down and see us at the museum on that day. It'll be a great day to come. And then, at least tentatively right now, we're looking at April 14th for another work weekend. If you're interested in coming and helping with that, again, shoot me an email and we can give you the logistics that you need to get here to help out. And that will also greatly appreciate anybody coming down to help on that project as well. Hopefully this will be the last work day we have to do as far as sealing goes in the shop. And I'm really anxious again to get the backside of that shop finished out where I can get that space where I'm utilizing it for projects rather than just being a mess, which is what more or less what it's been the last couple of years here. So anyway, thanks again. That'll be a wrap. We'll talk to you next time. Always leave me a thumbs up. Leave me some comments if you like what you saw. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. We'll talk to you later.